So far this year, I've created annoying content for Salamander County Public Television and manned the control booth while playing not for broadcast, live and spooky. With that kind of resume under my belt, it only makes sense that my next job would be as a cameraman for a local, up-and-coming streaming program in Butterfly Valley. That's the conceit in the new game Local News with Cliff Rockslide, a narrative adventure where we follow a charismatic host as he accidentally uncovers a conspiracy bigger than anybody can imagine. With a mix of first-person excitement, visual storytelling, and puzzle solving, this is not an easy game to classify. But should you still tune in? That's what we're about to find out when I review Local News with Cliff Rockslide. From the moment you step off the bus and say hello to Cliff Rockslide, you know that this is not gonna be your typical adventure game. Here's a guy with the want, the desire, and the enthusiasm to be a great newsman, only without the training and, the reputation. He is, like a lot of us in this new world, trying to make a name for himself online through a streaming news program that only has a few active viewers. He's not gonna pay you anything, and I'm not even sure this can be classified as an entry-level position. But there's something about Cliff's passion and go-get-it attitude that is just impossible to resist. The big problem that our wannabe newsman faces is that he lives in a small, sleepy town called Butterfly Valley, where everybody knows each other and nothing much happens. It's the kind of town where if one of the many colorful characters gets a pet, it's considered breaking news, and Cliff better be there to get all of the important details. After all, you gotta give your audience what they want. It's while poking around these special interest stories that Cliff uncovers something really big. And by that I mean a pumpkin. That's right, it's an absolutely massive pumpkin sitting right in the front lawn of a local elderly couple. It's after asking the right questions we discover that there's a local farm full of oversized fruits and vegetables, including tomatoes, radishes, and jalapeno peppers. There's also this weird metric-worshipping cult that's moved on to the farm, as well as a strange chemical being brought to the farm that is definitely not manure. Oh, and did I mention the explosion in town? Yeah, that's right, suddenly Butterfly Valley is full of breaking news events. As a cameraman, your job is pretty simple. You're going to want to follow Cliff and make sure that you get the best shots during the interview. Local News turns this aspect into a bit of a mini-game where the goal is to zoom in on the person or object when they're highlighted purple, and then pull back to get a wider shot when something is glowing green. This seems simple at first, but what makes this real challenging is the fact that the different characters will be spread out, forcing you to predict who's going to talk next and then pan over to them before they stop glowing green or purple. You'll earn up to 3 stars and more subscribers depending on how good you are at capturing the right shots in each interview, something that'll make you really push to improve your craft. Now, when you're not shooting interviews, you're going to need to roam around Butterfly Valley on your own, investigating clues that could break the conspiracy wide open. This is something that plays a big part of the game, as we're asked to sneak around houses and other locations on our own. This is where the game starts to be more about the mystery and adventure, demanding the cameraman to use his investigative know-how to solve puzzles and get out safely. And all that's before the story truly goes over the top, giving us an epic final act that is simultaneously goofy and satisfying. For as clever as the cameraman conceit is, the real star here is the story and the writing. It's common for the conversations to go on for quite a while, and there's enough jokes and humorous bits here to keep things from being too wordy. Although the developer describes Local News as a first-person visual novel, it didn't really remind me much of a visual novel, at least not in the first half. Sure, there were a lot of conversations, but there were also puzzles, action bits, and a whole town to investigate. However, things start to shift a bit in the final act. The mini-games, where you have to capture the perfect shots during the interviews, basically go away, replaced by linear stages and lots of running and exposition. That's not to say that the second half doesn't stack up to the first, because the game goes in some truly crazy directions, and there's a fight at the end that you definitely won't see coming. Even though it's over a bit too soon, Local News is full of fun and clever ideas that you just won't find in any other game this year. Now, while the story definitely satisfies, there are a few technical problems that got in the way. The biggest issue that I ran into was that I couldn't use a mouse in the game. I could walk around in Butterfly Valley like a normal first-person game, but I couldn't interact with the environment in any way. In fact, since you need the mouse cursor to use the main menu, I couldn't change any of the options or even quit the game. Thankfully, I was able to plug in my PlayStation 5 controller and play through the rest of the game. However, even with that gamepad, there are a few control issues. The big one is the look speed, which goes from bad to worse depending on if you're zoomed in or not. Using the default speed, getting a zoomed in shot is practically impossible with the controller. You might think that the solution would be to slow down the cursor in the options, which I do strongly advise, but that ends up making the speed of the wide shots so slow that it's hard to pan from one character to the next before they stop glowing. There's really no good solution for this, at least as far as I could find. In a perfect world, we'd be able to set both the zoomed in and zoomed out speeds, preventing any of this from even being an issue. There are a few other bugs that popped up, but nothing worth complaining about. I suppose I could also gripe about the inconsistent puzzles, the interview minigames that basically go away in the second half, and the lack of voice acting. You know what? I found that the story and the writing was good enough to keep me invested. I really liked being a cameraman and would love to see this storytelling conceit brought back for more mysteries. Cliff Rockslide is my new favorite streaming newsman, and I can't wait to see where he goes and what he uncovers next. Local News is an easy recommendation. Local News with Cliff Rockslide is a brand new first-person mystery with investigative journalism, colorful characters, and really big vegetables. How are all of those things connected? That's what we uncover in this clever new narrative adventure where we play a cameraman who accidentally stumbles into a small-town conspiracy that you simply won't believe. Although a bit on the short side and fraught with technical problems, there's enough humor and mystery here to keep players invested in Butterfly Valley and its evil underbelly. Here's hoping the Local News is just the first stop on Cliff's long and exciting career as a newsman. Hey, thanks for watching our review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. What's your favorite TV-themed game? It can be anything from a game based on a TV show like Buffy or Home Improvement to a game about a TV show like Not for Broadcast or even Smash TV. You know what? There are actually a whole lot of options, so I can't wait to see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with a review of Synthwave Racers, plus a fun mystery video that we can't talk about just yet. While you wait for that, I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then,